The most important aspect of Holocaust studies must be the lessons that can be learned from the horrific experience. While most of what we might learn focuses on some of the terrible things man is capable of, there is more. While it may seem difficult to find inspiration in the Holocaust experience, it is indeed a reality. And our program deals with such a subject. Buried in the archives of Holocaust history are the heroic deeds of individuals who on the surface appear to be ordinary. Their deeds proclaim them to be much more. We have entitled this Judaism Today presentation, Honoring the Righteous. Our guest is Stanlee Stahl, Director of the Jewish Foundation for Christian Rescuers. Welcome to Judaism Today.
Thank you.
How do we define a righteous person?
There are a number of ways of defining a righteous. We at the Jewish Foundation for Christian Rescuers use the same definition that Yad Vashem, which is Israel's Holocaust Authority, we use their definition. And that is, a righteous person is a non-Jew who during the Holocaust risked their life to save a Jew. And no financial remuneration was given to that person. There were no expectations of reward either then or now. There are other definitions of righteous, such as someone who perhaps did not denounce a Jew. But by not denouncing a person, that person did not necessarily endanger his life. So the key determiner for us is that the person risked their life to save a Jew.
So when we talk about these righteous individuals, are we talking about people who are, I guess in the Jewish tradition, a tzaddik? Do we mean that kind of thing?
Well, if you were a Jew whose life was saved by someone, yes, you might say this person was a tzaddik.
So even though they may not have been Jewish, and they may not even have been religious necessarily.
Correct.
You would still consider them, in the Jewish sense, a tzaddik.
Absolutely. These people, there were so few of them, and they did what no one else in Nazi-occupied Europe and Eastern Europe did. They risked their lives, and often the lives of their families, to take in total strangers for periods of time that they did not know how long it was going to be. It could have been a month, a year, and in some instances for the whole duration of the war, 2-3 years.
In the kind of society we have today, I have to be honest in the sense that when we look at a person who does that kind of a thing, we have to almost consider them naive or foolish. They're sacrificing a tremendous amount.
It's true.
Now, in a bottom-line oriented society like we are today, and we really are, more and more so as time goes on, how does that square? How can we respect people who are so different from what we consider to be today the model of what a person would be?
Maybe they help root us back to the model we should be, which is not bottom-line oriented. These people, these men and women, there are about 13,600 men and women, non-Jews, Christian as well as Muslim, who've been recognized by Yad Vashem. They teach us that one person can make a difference. They teach us that there comes a point where you have to say, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do what the Nazis want us to do. I'm going to take in this Jewish family. I'm going to take in this child. I think that, it has been said that there are too few moral heroes in history. The righteous among the nations of the world, the Hasidei Ha'amot Ulam, as they are called in Hebrew, were very few. But they teach us that man has the capacity to act humanely. And it's these values, and it's their legacy that we need to teach our children and that we need to pass down. Because if we lose sight of the capacity to do good, we are a very sorry civilization.
One of the questions that frankly puzzles me is that when I look at what Jewish tradition teaches about risking one's life, my understanding of Jewish teaching is that we are not expected to sacrifice our own life to save another person's life. Not that it isn't a wonderful thing, but it's not demanded of us. And I think that when we look at what these people have done, I think we really have to recognize that we have no right to demand that they do this. And what they really have done is something that nobody has a right to say, you must do this. This is something well beyond that.
But you're absolutely right. I have a member of my board who was saved by a woman in Poland. And when speaking with him, and he's a very successful man now, and he said, this woman took me in. She had 4 children. I don't know if I would have done what she did. And when you talk to the righteous, they will tell you that they are not heroes. They will tell you that they did absolutely nothing special. They did what any good Christian would have done, or in the case of Muslim Albania, this was part of their creed, that Jews were guests in Albania. Muslim Albania saved all of its Jews, some 2,000 Jews. They were guests in the country, and they were protected. And they will tell you it is what a Frenchman will do, or a Dane, that they could not stand by and watch this happen to fellow human beings, whatever their motivations were. And they were different. They were not all, there was not a monolithic approach to rescue or to the reasons why people rescued Jews. And they looked at it as it's something that happened. And they would probably do it again. And as I said before, they don't consider themselves to be heroes.
Trying to get a feel for some of these numbers. Do we know how many people were involved in doing this kind of work, and how many Jews have been saved, do we think?
There are estimates of anywhere from 50,000 to 250,000 non-Jews during the Nazi era that risked their lives to save Jews. As far as the number of Jews saved, I was talking to a scholar last week about this, and we think perhaps several 100,000 Jews were saved through the efforts of Christian rescuers. Christian rescuers did a number of things. They provided hiding, they provided false papers, they provided transportation, whether it be out of the ghetto or from one house on the Aryan side, the non-Jewish side, to another house, or going into the countryside. Christians provided a number of services to Jews, and they acted, as you said, they were ordinary people who did extraordinary deeds.
I don't know whether you're prepared for this kind of question, but what does Jewish tradition teach us about these kinds of people? What does it say?
One of the missions of the foundation is Hakarat HaTov, the searching out and recognition of goodness. And our tradition teaches us that we should search out and we should recognize goodness in all people, Jews and non-Jews. And the foundation was established by Rabbi Harold Schulweis of the conservative movement for the purpose of acknowledging the wonderful acts of these very, very special men and women. And the way in which the foundation honors these men and women is that we provide monthly financial support right now to more than 1,200 righteous Gentiles who live in 26 countries. The people that we support are old. They're in their 70s, 80s, and 90s, and everyone that we provide monthly support to is in need of financial assistance. And so our tradition does teach us that we should take the time, take the steps back, and to search out, identify these people. We work with Yad Vashem to get these very special men and women recognized as righteous among the nations of the world.
Do you have any feeling at all of how these people are treated in the countries they're in?
Very interesting question. It depends on the country. In the former Soviet Union, and we support men and women in 7 republics of the former Soviet Union, when we wrote to them and we said, may we have your permission to use your name and your photograph and your rescue story, we received very, very interesting responses that said, well, you may, but as long as you don't use it in Europe or Eastern Europe or in our country. Some people said no. We have righteous Gentiles who had to leave their country, who wound up along with the Jews that they saved in DP camps, and a number of them are here in the United States. Some are here in the United States because they immigrated, because that's what they wanted to do. Others came to America or to Canada or to other Western European countries because when their villagers, their neighbors, and their family members found out that they had hit Jews during the war, they were ostracized. In fact, when we send our money into certain countries, the name of the foundation does not appear on the envelope. The word Jewish is not readily apparent, and that is at the request of some of the righteous. They have to continue to live in the small towns and villages that the Jews left.
We have to interrupt. We will return in just 1 minute for our Judaism Today presentation, Honoring the Righteous. Welcome back to our Judaism Today presentation, Honoring the Righteous, with our guest, Stanlee Stahl. What has the Jewish community done to honor the memory of those who did this courageous act who are no longer alive?
Well, it's been based primarily at Yad Vashem in Israel. And as for those who have been to Yad Vashem, Israel's Holocaust Authority, the entrance to Yad Vashem is the Avenue of the Just. And the Avenue of the Just is filled with trees that have been planted in honor of the righteous. And for those that have died, and approximately half of the men and women that have been recognized by Yad Vashem have indeed passed away, trees have been planted along the Avenue of the Just, or Avenue of the Righteous. And there's a tree with a little plaque with the name of the rescuer, the righteous Gentile, and the country. There have been so many trees planted that there is no room anymore. So any names that are added to the list of the righteous at Yad Vashem now go on a wall of honor. And that has been that's the main way that the Jewish community has indeed recognized the righteous among the nations of the world.
If I may just add, the way it struck me when I went there the first time was that basically what you're confronted with before you ever learn anything about the Holocaust is you learn about the righteous that these people are.
And it's correct. And if you look at our own Holocaust Museum in the United States in Washington, the address is 100 Raoul Wallenberg Place, and named after Raoul Wallenberg, a Christian rescuer who helped save the lives of, I understand, about 100,000 Jews in Hungary. So we honor their memory, and we also work with Jewish survivors whose rescuers have passed away, for them to do their testimony and to send it to Yad Vashem so that their names will always be available for people to look at, and their stories will be maintained forever.
let's get to the ones that are still alive. And but how many do you think are still alive?
It's hard to say. Of the 13,600 that Yad Vashem has recognized, it is estimated that perhaps half of those men and women are still alive. But we think there's a larger number of righteous out there, somewhere between 50,000 and 250,000. So it's hard to say how many are still alive.
All right. What are we doing today, in addition to what your organization is involved with, but the Jewish community as a whole, what are we doing?
Well, the Jewish community as a whole is primarily through programs like yours, is bringing the stories of rescuers to the community. Here in the United States, in North America, Canada, other countries, we are letting our children know about the righteous. The righteous teach us that in the midst of man's inhumanity to man, there was humanity, that an individual could act decently. When the world went mad, these people, these very, very few people, tried to make some sense and order out of it. And so the foundation, as I mentioned before, is committed to providing financial assistance. Other organizations have righteous come in to speak to them, and we teach our children about their acts and their deeds. So we are trying to perpetuate their memory, but most important, their legacy as to what they did for our brothers and sisters.
I was very much taken by when I heard you talk about one time the twinning program with synagogues.
Right.
Could you tell us a little bit about that?
We have a program which matches a bar or bat mitzvah with a rescuer. And we work with the family. The family says we would like a rescuer. Our family is from France, or our family is from Czechoslovakia or Poland, or we would like our daughter to be matched with a female rescuer. So we work with the family to identify a rescuer for their son or daughter to be twinned with for his or her bar or bat mitzvah. And a certificate is prepared for the bar or bat mitzvah with the story of their rescuer. And a presentation is made from the bima during the morning service. And if the young person so chooses, he or she can have a pen-pal relationship with the rescuer. It's not necessary. But what it does is it gives this young person who is about to accept the duties and responsibilities of a Jewish adult in our community an understanding of what one person did more than 50 years ago to save other Jewish children like themselves or Jewish adults like their parents.
If someone is looking for more information, can they reach you? Can they get in touch with you somehow?
Absolutely. They could reach us at, we're the Jewish Foundation for Christian Rescuers. The address is 823 United Nations Plaza, New York, New York, 10017. And we provide information, technical assistance to survivors who are looking to prepare testimony for their rescuers.
If people want to get involved with bar and bat mitzvah twinning, they can get in touch with you?
They can get in touch with me. They can call us. We're in the New York phone book at 212-885-7771.
One of the questions that I think people really would like to know is what is it about these people that makes them different? Do we know?
I don't know. Every time I meet a rescuer, where we do a reunion and we're bringing someone in from Europe or Eastern Europe.
If I may, just to be a little more, to focus the question a little bit, are we talking about education? Are we talking about IQ? Are we talking about money? What are we talking about?
It's hard to say. Rescuers came from all walks of life. They were men, they were women, they were rich, they were poor, they were educated, they were uneducated. They were from the upper classes, they were from peasant class. There have been some studies done that looked at the psychological profile of rescuers, that some perhaps were more independent, had very nurturing environments, grew up in a religious home, saw rescue as a very matter-of-fact activity. And for many of them, rescue just happened. They didn't go out to say, today I'm going to save a Jewish family. It just happened. And they didn't move away from it. they perhaps went tentatively into the situation that was only going to last maybe a day or a week, that wound up lasting 1 or 2 or 3 years, where they were hiding a family or a person. But rescuers, it's very hard to pigeonhole who and what the rescuers were, other than the characteristics I described before. A number of the rescuers also did rescue because of their belief in Christ, because of their Christian upbringing, that this is not the way that they knew their religion told them to be. Other rescuers did the act of rescue because this is not the way you treat a human being, or this is not the way you treat a fellow Dane or an Italian or a Frenchman. There were all sorts of different motivations.
Are there any distinctions or characteristics we can identify among different countries? Were there different cultural differences that made a difference?
I don't really think so. Rescue occurred in every country which was occupied by the Germans.
The reason why I say this is because there are people who say they're anti-Semites. You know, those people were anti-Semites.
Okay. You should know that the largest number of rescuers that have been approved by Yad Vashem come from Poland. Poland was the killing center for European Jewry. That's what the Germans designated Poland as the killing center. The United 6 killing centers were located in Poland. Yet, it was in Poland where most of the rescue occurred. And most of the people recognized by Yad Vashem come from Poland. Denmark saved its entire Jewish community. I think 52 Jews out of almost 7,800 Jews in Denmark, only 52 were killed. Each country had rescue, and each country rescue was different, and rescue did occur.
Now, you said Albania protected its Jewish community?
2,000 Jews in Albania.
My impression is that Bulgaria
correct.
also protected their Jewish community.
Old War Bulgaria. When the war started, and Bulgaria was an ally of Germany. It was an Axis country. Bulgaria was annexed Macedonia and Thrace. The Jews of Macedonia and Thrace were sent to the concentration camps, were sent to Auschwitz, I believe. The Jews in what we know as Old War Bulgaria were saved. They were deported out of the major cities and into the countrysides into labor battalions, but they did not perish. So the Jews of Bulgaria, of Old War Bulgaria, were indeed saved for the most part.
We were talking before the program about Italy.
Italy saved 85% of their Jews. In fact, there is a man in Budapest named Giorgio Prohaska who saved 3,500 Jews in Hungary by pretending to be the envoy from Spain and changed his name from Giorgio Prohaska to Jorge, and was successful along with Raoul Wallenberg and a gentleman from the International Red Cross in saving thousands of Hungarian Jews.
And we have the Japanese
You have
representative.
Sempo Sugihara, who was the consul general in Kovno, Lithuania, who saved some 6,000 Jews in 1940. And he was stripped of his position at the end of the war. He died in poverty. He was humiliated by his government, and it's only been recently that his name has been restored to its good standing.
One of the challenges I think we face is making sure that children learn about this. And it's got to be a difficult question to deal with, is, you know, how and when, how do we teach this to children?
There's no one correct answer. Here in New Jersey, we have mandated Holocaust education, grades K through 12. And there are about 8 to 15 states that have some form of Holocaust and or genocide mandate for education. I think it is our responsibility as a society to teach our children about the Holocaust, about man's inhumanity to man. And I think, and the approach taken by our foundation is that by using the stories of righteous Gentiles, it is an approach to teaching the Holocaust. We teach about the 6 million, but you have no heroes without villains. And if we're going to teach our children about Hitler and Eichmann and Himmler, they need to know about the Raoul Wallenbergs and the Giorgio Prohaskas and the Sempo Sugiharas. And so you begin slowly and carefully. You train your teachers first, because your teachers need to understand what it is they're doing, why it is important, what are the concepts that they need to impart to children. And then you need to help your teachers have age-appropriate materials so that they can, in turn, go into the classroom, whether it be junior high or high school or college, and teach their students about the subject. And there's no one best place to teach the Holocaust. It's not axiomatic that it has to be in history or social studies. It could be in English, it could be in math, it could be in art. It's whatever works for the school, for the teacher, and for the students.
Do you know of any textbooks for children that this has been included in, any of the righteous Gentile?
I don't know of specific textbooks per se for children. There is the Diary of Anne Frank. And most students in the United States that study the Holocaust study it in English when they read the Diary of Anne Frank. But the Diary of Anne Frank is not necessarily the Holocaust in its totality. It is an aspect.
We've been done in by the clock. I thank you so much for coming. And I have to tell you, I admire the work you're doing. And I wish you good luck. Thank you.